Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Train Station. As always, I am your host, A-Train, and today I have a lot to talk about, so bear with me. But it's a lot in a good way, but also, a negative way, because that's just how we do it here. I give you guys my opinion on everything, and sometimes my opinion is positive, sometimes it's negative. That's just the way it goes. So, to start off this episode, it's pretty simple. I had one of the best weekends this past weekend that I've probably ever had in a very, very long time, and I was so glad to be a part of such a special moment. What am I talking about, you might ask? Well, WrestleMania 38 weekend was here in Dallas, Texas. And I had to go. It's always been something on my bucket list ever since I was a little kid. Watching WrestleManias on TV, live streaming, WrestleManias illegally, trying to find different ways to watch WrestleMania, just the atmosphere and, the way it's hyped up to be. It really is considered the Super Bowl of wrestling. And, I definitely had to check it out for myself. And that came after a lot of debate because originally I was not planning on going at all. For those of you that know me and know some of my content on here, I am very critical of the product when it is needed. And the match card was not looking promising at all. It was looking very bland and dull, but for the whole WrestleMania feel, I decided that I would suck it up and go. But not just WrestleMania. WWE, their development brand NXT, also had a pay-per-view. They had NXT Stand and Deliver. That took place at the American Airlines Center. WrestleMania took place at the AT&T Center. Or at the AT&T Stadium, not Center, excuse me, AT&T Stadium. And, it was just a great weekend overall. Like I said, ever since I was a little kid, I've just always imagined going to have the chance to be at WrestleMania, and I finally got that opportunity, and I'm going to just kind of talk about, the experience and then some of the matches, and if I agree with it, what's it mean going forward and whatnot. So it's kind of an all-in-one kind of video, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. But first, I just feel like I'm on top of the world right now. Absolutely bucket list experience. For those of you that aren't big into wrestling but still want to check it out, if WrestleMania ever comes to your city, I highly suggest going. Even if you're not a big fan of the product, you won't regret it. The atmosphere is just absolutely incredible. It really is a spectacular moment, and it really does give you that Super Bowl feeling. I've never been to the Super Bowl, so this was the closest thing I get. And I may never get the chance to go again. So I had to go while I had the chance. And that was really kind of weighing my option when I was weighing my options of going or not going. It was, okay, this card kind of sucks, but I may never get the chance to do this again, so I might as well do it while I have the chance. And that was the constant battle that I had until, I decided to end up going. Also, ticket prices were insane. But they kept dropping and dropping, and then eventually they were low enough. I'm like, they're probably not going to get any lower. Let me buy tickets. Let me go. NXT wasn't quite the same way. NXT was very cheap. American Airlines Center is very nice, but it doesn't quite compare to the AT&T Stadium. So for NXT Stand and Deliver, there was a total of 6 matches. As a little warm-up, it took place at 12 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. NXT is great, it gives you a chance to see guys you don't normally get a chance to see, and it gives you a chance to see people that, are fresh into the business or are coming from somewhere else and are trying to make a name for themselves. That's what the NXT brand is for. And as the kickoff to WrestleMania Night 1, it was fantastic. It wasn't, super duper perfect It was probably the worst show of the weekend, but that doesn't mean that's not a bad thing. So the pre-show gave us WWE NXT Women's Tag Team Championship match between Raquel Gonzalez, Dakota Kai versus the Toxic Attraction. Toxic Attraction came in as champions, and they leave as non-champions. Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai randomly made up on the last episode of NXT last Tuesday. Were put into this match, and then they win the title. A lot of the booking on this show makes no sense, and I feel like a lot of the finishes in this pay-per-view were rushed because of WrestleMania, but they also had 4 hours until WrestleMania. You could have slowed it down a little bit. Decently good match for a pre-show match that wasn't supposed to be on the main card at all. Wasn't bad at all. Now, they opened up the show with a WWE NXT North American Championship ladder match. This match was crazy. Had a bunch of high spots. Had all sorts of everything. This was Carmelo Hayes, Cameron Grimes, Santos Escobar, Solo Sikoa, or, I think he's like the cousin of the Usos and Roman Reigns or something like that. He's in that family. Grayson Waller. Fantastic match. Probably one of my favorite matches of the entire weekend. Even though WrestleMania had better matches, this was one of my favorites. It had a lot of high spots. Carmelo Hayes walks in as champion. Cameron Grimes leaves as champion. It's a ladder match, and ladder matches in WWE always tend to be somewhat entertaining. They always get your stuff. So that was a great match for what it was. Up next, we have Tommaso Ciampa versus Tony D'Angelo. Tommaso Ciampa has been in NXT for years. He keeps saying this is his last match in NXT. Versus Tony D'Angelo, who his gimmick is pretty much an Italian mobster. So, I'm all for that. You guys know why if you've been watching me for a while. But if you don't, my Italian heritage, Tony D'Angelo playing an Italian, pretty much an Italian mafia member on TV. I love it. Tony D'Angelo beats Tommaso Ciampa. The new Dawn of NXT has arrived. He is here to stay. Push this man, Tony D'Angelo. This man has star written all over him. And then, of course, Tommaso Ciampa, with this being his last NXT match, a very emotional ending to this match. The match ended. He kisses the ring. He's heading back to the locker room. Boom. Triple H's music comes out. They embrace. Crowd is silent. Crowd is very, very emotional. Tommaso Ciampa isn't the guy he is without Triple H. Triple H was just so key to this whole thing. Very emotional Tommaso Ciampa, very emotional Triple H, got the fans watering up. I was very close to tearing up myself because it was just such an emotional embrace. Crowd erupts into thank you Ciampa chants. And it'll be interesting to see what Ciampa does next. Does he go to the Raw or SmackDown? Does he go and take a backstage role? It's going to be interesting to find out. That was followed up by the WWE NXT Women's Championship Fatal 4-Way. Mandy Rose, Cora Jade, Io Shirai, and Kaylee Ray. I'm going to say right now, the booking of this match made absolutely no sense. Io Shirai and Kaylee Ray were a tag team that won the Dusty Tag Team Cup Classic. So they won as a tag team. Why are they going after the NXT Championship? Shouldn't they have been the ones to face Toxic Attraction instead of Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai? But I guess they don't trust Mandy and Cora because it was originally scheduled to just be Mandy Rose and Cora one-on-one. Maybe they didn't trust those two enough to go one-on-one. So they threw Io Shirai and Kaylee Ray, two kind of veterans in there. Cora Jade's very green, very young. She's only 20 years old. Mandy Rose has never really been, a big-time leader. However, Mandy Rose comes into this match champion. She leaves as champion. I don't agree with this booking. I wanted Cora Jade to win. However, I think Io Shirai should have won the match. I think Io Shirai is the most talented out of the bunch. It wasn't a really great match. It really wasn't. Uh, it just shows how far a lot of Io Shirai and Kaylee Ray carried the match. Mandy Rose has been on WWE forever. Main roster couldn't wrestle, couldn't figure it out. They moved her down to NXT, threw the title on her. She still can't wrestle, still can't figure it out. So yeah, I don't know what they're doing with Mandy Rose, where they go from here. But Io Shirai definitely should have won and become a two-time NXT Women's Champion. Like I said, Cora Jade, I think she has a lot of potential, but she's just not ready yet. Kaylee Ray, also I would have been okay with anybody but Mandy Rose, really. Mandy Rose looks good, but that only gets you so far. She cannot wrestle herself out of a paper bag. NXT did not, moving her back down to NXT from Raw and SmackDown did absolutely nothing for her or for NXT. Makes no sense. That's my one complaint I have about this match is the results because they make no sense. But also the way it was booked because Io Shirai and Kaylee Ray should have been facing Toxic Attraction to begin with, who Mandy Rose is also a part of. She's like the leader of Toxic Attraction, which is JC Jane and Gigi Dolan. It should have been Mandy Rose versus Cora Jade one-on-one, or you throw Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez in that match, at least then it makes sense because they were just a makeshift team put together again anyways. You throw them in the Fatal 4-Way, at least it makes sense. But throwing Io Shirai and Kaylee Ray in there after they just won the Dusty Rhodes Classic as a tag team to not have them go for the tag team championships was very, very questionable booking. Next up, we had a triple threat tag team match for the WWE NXT Tag Team Championship between Imperium, MSK, and the Creed Brothers with Malcolm Bevins. That man is funny. That Malcolm Bevins, he is a manager. He is funny. He has a chance to be a very, very, very good manager. This was a very good, hard-hitting, high-spot tag team. You had Imperium and the Creed Brothers who like to be the power, and then MSK is kind of the high-flying, cruiserweight kind of guys who will give you the high spots. I didn't really know much about any of these guys. I don't really watch NXT as much as I do the main roster, so I knew most of these people going in, but a lot of these tag teams were kind of new to me. So I didn't really know much about MSK, Imperium. I knew Imperium, and I kind of knew MSK, but they were kind of new along with the Creed Brothers. I did know Malcolm Bevins because he's just hilarious. Imperium walked in champions, MSK walks out champions as another championship switches hands. This is the third championship out of 5 championship matches that switches hands. It was a great match. Following that, the co-main event was LA Knight versus Gunther, or as we call him, Walter, because WWE changed his name for apparently no reason at all. So it's Walter, not Gunther or whatever his name is now. We don't call him that, we call him Walter. Walter and LA Knight. This was a physical match. Both guys were just absolutely just monstrous. Lot of hard-hitting action. Gunther or Walter wins in a very, very good match. I believe LA Knight's next stop, as I believe he's headed to the main roster. He'd be a perfect mid-card guy on the main roster for both Raw and SmackDown that lack lack mid-card guys. You throw him into that mid-card, I think he fits in perfectly. As far as Gunther goes, he should be next in line for an NXT championship. Which brings us to the next match, but I will be just right back. So the NXT Championship match, Dolph Ziggler versus Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker is the son of Scott Steiner, who was introduced into the Hall of Fame Friday night. Absolutely incredible honor for him. Definitely deserves it. I don't understand WWE's sense with calling him Braun Breaker. I think they should have stuck with the Steiner name, as that is a very good legacy name to have. You know, wasn't it was a good match with the wrong result. So Dolph Ziggler, another one of those guys that came from the main roster and is down in NXT. Why? Who knows? Dolph Ziggler walks in as champion and walks out as champion. Terrible decision making. The only thing I can think about this is Braun Breaker's young. He's a Steiner, and his pops just got elected into the Hall of Fame the night before. Yeah, I would have thought that WWE would have put the title on Braun Breaker and then had his pops and his uncle and all that come out and celebrate with him. That's how I would have booked it, and he would have gotten his moment in front of thousands of people at the American Airlines Center. But no, typical Vince move, got to pull a fast one and have Dolph Ziggler win, which does nothing for the brand. Dolph Ziggler's been around for years. He's been around over a decade. He's had his WrestleMania moment. Let the new guy go. So the only thing I can think is that either tonight on Monday Night Raw or Friday on SmackDown, Braun Breaker is going to make an appearance. It's the only logical explanation to why he lost this match. So I'm hoping he is headed to the main roster and he goes after a guy like Roman Reigns and they just put the jetpack on him and strap it to him. This man has everything it takes to be a star in this business. Definitely can tell he's a second generation. It's in his blood. But yeah, it's definitely in his blood. So he should be headed to the main roster, and I believe that's probably where he's headed next. And that was NXT. Overall, a solid show. If I had to give it a rating out of 10, I would say it was a solid 6.5, 7. It wasn't a super great show because, like I said, it felt rushed because they had WrestleMania Night 1 the exact same night. So it definitely felt rushed. A lot of the finishes felt like the matches probably could have went 5 or 10 more minutes each. But when you're working with, a limited time because of WrestleMania, you got to do what you got to do. Solid show overall. Little upset, though, that I went to NXT because during that time there was other things there was Access going on, and one of my favorites was that Access. Didn't get the chance to meet them, but it's okay. NXT was a great show. I shouldn't say great. It was a good show. About what you would expect for a show that is rushed before WrestleMania, but definitely worth going back and watching. As I think it was a pretty decent show. And then the big one, my first time ever at AT&T Stadium. Never been there. Hate the Dallas Cowboys. But this is WrestleMania, it's very exciting, something to get excited about. Never thought in a million years that I would ever be here. It was on my bucket list. It was always a dream as a child to just go to the spectacle that is WrestleMania. As much as I hate the Cowboys, I gotta give it to them. Jerry's World, AT&T Stadium, beautiful stadium, incredible. One of the nicest stadiums I've ever been in. So that's all I'm going to say positive about that organization. Very, very nice stadium. No pre-show match on WrestleMania Night 1 or Night 2. Very interesting that they decided to do that. Instead, they had a DJ that was there to get the crowd ready and excited. So they opened up the match. They opened up Night 1 with the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. The 2/3 of the Bloodline, which is the Usos and Roman Reigns. The Usos opened up against Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs. I've seen Nakamura's entrance live a few times, and every time Shinsuke Nakamura is there, his entrance is just more electric every single time. It's just one of the most fun entrances there is out there in WWE. It's to sing along and have fun. Nakamura's entrance is fantastic. This match went 7 minutes. Unfortunately, it ended probably much earlier than it was supposed to. Rick Boogs and Shinsuke Nakamura looked really good, like they were going to win, but There is a botched spot where Rick Boogs tried lifting both of the Usos on his shoulders at once. His knee buckled. He was legitimately hurt. He's going into surgery here. I don't know when, but he tore some tendon in his leg or his knee, which made them have to shift plans, and the Usos retain over Nakamura and Boogs. I think before the injury, it really looked like the Usos' time as champions was up. It was a 7-minute match that was probably scheduled to go longer, so unfortunately not the case. Boog suffered a torn quadricep. Torn quadricep patella tendon, whatever that is, in his knee. Ref threw up the X, which means a wrestler is legitimately hurt. So it was pretty much 2-on-1 against Nakamura. Usos win. It was a solid opener until they had to change plans with the injury. I would not have opened with that match. I would have opened with Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch, which I will get to later down in the show. But that's what I would have opened up with. But for what it wasn't a bad opener. It probably would have been better had Boogs not gotten injured. So, unfortunately, Boogs going into surgery. We wish him a very speedy recovery because he has just made Nakamura's entrance that much better. After that, we follow it up with Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin, who has Madcap Moss in his corner. To be honest, I don't know why these two are feuding. This was kind of a waste of a match, but it was decent. It went 8 minutes, 41 seconds. McIntyre wins by pinfall. McIntyre also becomes the first superstar to kick out of Baron Corbin's or Happy Corbin's end of days finisher. Nobody's ever done it before. I guess this was their way to give Drew McIntyre his WrestleMania moment in front of fans, even though they should have done it last year when he was WWE champion. That's when they should have gave him his moment in front of fans. But this is Vince McMahon's way of making it up to Drew McIntyre to give him his WrestleMania moment in front of 77,000 people. Decent match overall, not really much to talk about. Next up, we have Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio versus The Miz and celebrity guest Logan Paul. Now, normally I hate celebrity matches. Most of the time they aren't needed at all. You have plenty of roster spots to fill that you could put on the show instead of Logan Paul and other celebrities like Bad Bunny last year, and Johnny Knoxville was also on WrestleMania this year, and that's also going to be later in the show, but I don't feel the need to make celebrities on the show when you have a roster full of talent that you're not using to begin with. But I get it. It's WrestleMania, the spectacle of WrestleMania. You want to make sure everybody, tunes in to watch. So by doing that, you try and stack the card with as much celebrities as possible. Now, I don't like Logan Paul the person. However, he did wrestle a very decent wrestling match Saturday night. The Mysterios end up giving up the pin. The Miz and Logan Paul. Logan Paul had all the heel heat on him, mocking Eddie Guerrero, who we all know Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio were very, very close with. He hit the Three Amigos on the Mysterios. He did the Eddie Frog Splash with the little shimmy with the shoulders, just mocking Eddie Guerrero. And that's one way to get heat on you, and he did a good job at getting heat, but he also did a very, very good job of wrestling. A lot of celebrities, when they get into the ring, they're just not good. Bad Bunny last year was actually fantastic. And Logan Paul, another guy, if he had another match, because at the end of the match, when Logan Paul and The Miz's hands were raised, The Miz turned on Logan Paul, gave him a skull-crushing finale, and he's smiling and running around. So maybe a bit of a face turn for The Miz. If that's a face turn for The Miz and Logan Paul has to come back for a one-off with The Miz, I'm not against it because Logan Paul had a great match. Again, I can't stand Logan Paul the person. I don't know how people support him, but he did wrestle well, and it would not surprise me if he has another match and he would do well. He actually looked better than Dominic Mysterio, whose dad is a WWE or soon to be WWE Hall of Famer and wrestling legend. Looked greener than Logan Paul, and Logan Paul has known about this match for like a month. So how does somebody who's been training for like a month look better than somebody who's had this in their blood and has been on the main roster much longer? Weird concept. Logan Paul looked fantastic. The Miz did his normal stuff. Rey Mysterio did his normal stuff. Dominic Mysterio looked awful. Match was 11 minutes. Went as long as it needed to. I don't think it needed to go any longer. Very solid effort from Logan Paul, though. Following that was probably the best match. Not the best segment, but the best match of the night. The Raw Women's Championship match. Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair. Becky Lynch walks in as champion. This is really long-term storytelling, and I was very against it at first, but once I seen how it played out, I enjoyed it. Bianca Belair beat Sasha Banks last year at WrestleMania in a fantastic women's match. Bianca Belair is at the top of her game right now. I don't think there's anybody in the division better than her right now, and if there is, please let me know in the comment section, because I love, as much as I love Sasha Banks and I love all these other, female performers, nobody is at the top of their game right now like Bianca Belair. Was champion last year at WrestleMania, held it till SummerSlam, was supposed to face Carmella at SummerSlam. Out comes Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch beats Bianca Belair in 27 seconds. We all go insane, saying this was dumb. Why would you book it that way? This, and this. Bianca Belair gets her title chance back at this WrestleMania. Defeats Becky Lynch in a match that went 19 minutes. It probably could have went 30, and it was arguably the best match of the weekend, but definitely the best match of night one. Outside of something going on later on, this was the most, for a scheduled match, this was the best one. And Bianca Belair gets her redemption, so the redemption storyline finally comes. I'm okay with it now that it played out the way that it did. Sure, you beat Bianca Belair in 27 seconds at SummerSlam, but she got you back on the grandest stage of them all. How about Bianca Belair 2-0 at WrestleMania now? Very, very good match. I loved it. If I had to grade it, it's grade A. Fantastic match. Arguably match of the night and of the weekend, but definitely of the night. This next match, though, could also have been in contention for match of the night. Storyline going in is Seth Rollins not on the WrestleMania card. He's working his way to get to a WrestleMania position. He comes in. Everybody thinks that Cody Rhodes, who used to be in WWE, left to go to AEW, is the EVP of AEW. He's a free agent now. Everybody thinks it's him. We know typical Vince is probably going to troll with Shane McMahon or blah blah or whoever. Seth Rollins goes to Mr. McMahon's office. Why didn't you just ask for a match? Yada yada yada. He said, "Congratulations, Rollins. You are on WrestleMania against an opponent of my choosing." So Seth Rollins comes out, does his entrance, does this and that. He looks like a complete goofball. I hate the freaking Seth Rollins' current gimmick. It's just ridiculous. He looks like a dweeb. He's got to stop. Speaking of entrances, let me go back a little bit. Bianca Belair's entrance was absolutely awesome. She had a marching band come out, start playing some fight songs. She came out, it was it was a fantastic entrance. Definitely one of the main reasons why I like WrestleMania so much. The presentation of the entrance. It's not usually what they normally come out to. They always come out to the same music, but you're always wondering what they're going to do differently this year. And having the marching band come out and play some fight songs, it was great. believe it was the Texas Southern University marching band, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, back to the Seth Rollins. He comes out, he does this thing. It's quiet, no music playing. Seth Rollins just chilling there in the ring. Everybody thinks Cody Rhodes is going to be his opponent, but we're not sure. Lights go out. Cody Rhodes' music hits. He comes with the same gimmick that he had in AEW. The American Nightmare Cody Rhodes is back in WWE, and he's facing Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. And this was the perfect time to debut him. There were rumors that he could show up on Monday Night Raw, or he could show up on SmackDown, and that would be his debut. I think that ruins his debut completely. The best thing that they could have done was to debut Cody Rhodes the way they did. Give it silence. The pop Cody Rhodes received was fantastic, and I don't think he gets that pop. Does he not leave WWE the first time 6 years ago and go make a name for himself elsewhere and then come back? Now, I do have to give Seth Rollins some props. Seth Rollins did a good job of hyping up the match and getting people, ready for whoever it was going to be. But reports were that Cody Rhodes had just signed with WWE, but nobody knew when he was coming. Everybody just assumed that it was going to be WrestleMania. And I think that this had to be the debut because you also didn't want to make the fans mad. Cody Rhodes 6 years ago was known as Stardust. Terrible gimmick. Needs to be gone forever. Reinvents himself in different companies. Helps build AEW to the way it is now today. And then realizes, I can come back. This is more of to show WWE needs me. I don't need them. But if they're going to pay me a boatload of money to come back, then I'm going to come back. So he comes back. He gets a giant standing ovation and pop. Cody from the crowd. I was excited for it. I think I think it had to be Cody Rhodes. It couldn't be anybody else. Him and Seth Rollins, for guys that didn't really get a lot of time beforehand together, this match went 21 minutes. It was a good match. It started off really slow. So the match, the first 6-7 minutes started off really slow, and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be a very, very disappointing match. But it quickly picked up, and it was a good match. Cody Rhodes defeats Seth Rollins in his return. Did a couple of crossroads. He did a tribute to his dad, Dusty Rhodes. So that was always nice to see. And yeah, it was just overall a solid match, and the correct winner won. You can't have Cody Rhodes come back and lose. Now I'm interested to see what they do with Cody Rhodes, because the first time he was around, you completely bombed it and whiffed on him. If I was WWE, and I'm just throwing ideas out here, this is what I would do. Money in the Bank is around the corner. Give Cody Rhodes Money in the Bank. Have him defeat Roman Reigns, who we'll get to later in the show. Everybody knows Roman Reigns won. Have him beat Roman Reigns. That way, as a Money in the Briefcase holder, this way you protect Roman, because you know they want them to protect Roman at all costs. You protect Roman this way. Cody Rhodes gets his championship. But maybe that's too soon to push him like that. Maybe give him a run with the U.S. title or the Intercontinental Championship and make those titles relevant again, because right now they're about useless as, they're just useless. So I think if you give him a U.S. title or Intercontinental Championship first, but I'm also not opposed to giving him Money in the Bank and letting him run with it and protecting both Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns in the process. Very solid match with Seth Rollins after it picked up. In the co-main event, we just seen what happened. 2 matches. After everything that had just transpired between Becky and Bianca, and then Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, having Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown Women's Championship follow this, terrible decision. Terrible decision. Charlotte Flair walks in, SmackDown Women's Champion against Ronda Rousey. First time in my life I have to root for Charlotte Flair. For those that have been following for a while or know me on social media, I am not a Charlotte Flair fan. I can't stand her moonsault specifically. Unfortunately, I had to follow up Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair, who just had a fantastic match. Then I had to follow the return of Cody Rhodes, so I got the cool off co-main event spot for the main event that is supposed to happen, which is Stone Cold Steve Austin, and the fans are going to save all their energy for that. I don't like either of these women, to be honest, but I had to pick the lesser of the two evils, which is Charlotte Flair. You might ask, why is that? One, she actually cares about the business. Two, Ronda Rousey can go suck an egg. I cannot stand Ronda Rousey. I think she needs to leave WWE for good. All she ever does is complain about how the business doesn't like her and blah, 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 and cries and complains. It's like, you can go away now. Never should have been given the Royal Rumble to begin with. This was your title match for the Royal Rumble. Ronda Rousey won the Rumble. Charlotte Flair retains. All I have to say about that. The match went 18 minutes. It should have went probably 10. But towards the end of the match, Charlotte Flair hits Ronda Rousey with a big boot after the ref is knocked out. So maybe we get a rematch, which also nobody's going to care about. So Charlotte Flair retains, the correct decision. Finally, they do something right with Charlotte. This is the one WrestleMania match she should have won. And then the main event of the evening wasn't even originally supposed to be a match. Kevin Owens hosts his own KO show with special guest Stone Cold Steve Austin. I want to talk about this for a bit because this was such an awesome moment. And they picked the perfect guy, and they put a lot of faith into Kevin Owens in this position, and it paid off beautifully. This whole thing started with Kevin Owens just being a perfect bad guy. Weeks and weeks leading up to this talk show, he's talking bad about Texas, how Texans are stupid, how you should move, and this and that. And then he comes into night one of WrestleMania, he sits down, he says the same thing. You guys walk in with your stupid cowboy hats and your stupid cowboy boots. And Mexico is right there. I don't know why. If I lived in Texas, then I would just move to Mexico. He's playing the perfect heel, the perfect bad guy in this situation to get the fans riled up so that when Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out, pop is electric. And as soon as that happens, glass shatters, music hits, crowd, myself included, absolutely bonkers. We lose it. Stone Cold is actually here at WrestleMania. 13 years ago, he had his last match, more like 18 years ago, whatever. He had his last match, 2003, against Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's exactly where it should have ended, but I'll get more into that soon. As somebody who's always watched wrestling, even as a little kid, I was very little as Austin was on his way out. So for me, this was a throwback, nostalgic, but also new to me thing, because I'd always go back and watch Raw and older Raws and SmackDowns and see how important Austin and The Rock are. There's a reason why Stone Cold, even 18, 19 years later, still gets a bigger reaction than anybody else on the roster. This man is WWE. This man literally might be the greatest of all time, depending on what you look at. The glass shatters, boof, out comes Austin. He comes, starts walking to the ramp, says just kidding, walks back, grabs an ATV and starts zooming down the ramp and around the ring. Fantastic. Him and Kevin Owens are jawing back and forth at each other. We had to get the what chants going. The Stone Cold's like, how you doing? What? This and that. What? Had to get the what chants going. Fantastic. I thought what should have happened there is once they're talking, Austin grabs a couple of beers, has some beers with Kevin Owens, clicks them together and then stuns Kevin Owens. But no, Kevin Owens says, yeah, all that trash I was talking about Texas, I just wanted to get you out here to actually have a match with you. No holds barred match, which is pretty much anything goes. So, we got a match. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Kevin Owens. And, I just want to praise Kevin Owens for a second for, and praising WWE too, because they put Kevin Owens, it takes a lot for a specific person to be put in a high caliber match like this. Not everybody gets the luxury of being in a main event spot with their idol. But also, there's not a lot of guys that Vince McMahon trusts to put in this position. Kevin Owens, what a year he's having. Re-signs with WWE for a reported $3 to $3.5 million contract a year. After he signs the contract, Vince says, all right, we really trust you. Well, what are we going to do? We're going to give you a WrestleMania main event spot with Stone Cold Steve Austin, the biggest legend in this business. We're going to go ahead and trust you enough to have a main event spot with him. And Kevin Owens, as I said earlier, played the perfect bad guy even into the night leading up to this. He's a Canadian anyway, so he played that anti-American, anti-Texas, perfect bad guy leading up to the match. Stone Cold, hopefully this is his last match ever. They claim it is. He's looking old. Stone Cold looking a little old. Yeah. But it was great. They had a good match. A lot of spots that I didn't think even Stone Cold could take with the neck injury, the knee injury, the back injuries that he suffered throughout his career. He got suplexed on some concrete. And then you know how it goes. After the match, Owens is stunned. Austin grabs his beer. He has his own beer brand now, so that's what smashes them together, gives the crowd double birds. This and that. Walks off. That's how night one ended. Big pop. Big standing ovation for Stone Cold Steve Austin. The match itself went 14 minutes, which I'm a little surprised it went that long. It felt like it went much shorter than 14 minutes. But both guys got in their things. And I'm just happy for both Stone. I'm happy that I got to be there to witness Stone Cold for the first time in person. As as a little kid, never got to. And then I'm happy for Kevin Owens being put in this position. That just means that WWE still has a lot of faith in him, and hopefully big things are still to come for Kevin Owens. Because whether he's a babyface or a heel, he's just so good at his craft and what he does. The only bad thing I will say about Kevin Owens is get rid of the stunner. That is Stone Cold's thing, which is also kind of probably what led up to this, is Kevin Owens kind of took the stunner from Stone Cold. But I think he needs to go back up to the pop-up powerbomb. Definitely a great, great match. Sent the fans home happy with the beer drinking and the middle fingers and everything. Great. Love it. So, hopefully that's the last we see of Stone Cold in a match. If he comes back and does talk segments, or he's smashing beer and, giving guys stunners, I'm all for that. But as far as wrestling matches go, I hope that he is done wrestling for both his sake and the fans' sake. And that is how night one ended. Like I said, I am very happy to have been a part of night one. For a card that looked very, very underwhelming, I believe it over-delivered. And I do truly mean that. And I'm very, very hard and crucial on WWE product because I know it can be better, because I've seen it be better. But for what they had and what we expected, absolutely blew expectations out of the water. Night one, I give an 8.5 out of 10. It was that good. It was a fantastic. And maybe I'm just being biased because I was there, but this is one of the best Manias we've had in years. From a wrestling standpoint, from a crowd standpoint, everything just great. Night 2 of WrestleMania was last night. Wasn't as good. I'm going to just come out and say it now. There were certain things I liked better, but just wasn't as good. Also, confirmed for next year in LA. WrestleMania will once again be 2 nights. I don't agree with this. I don't like the 2-night WrestleMania thing. It doesn't feel as special. I think it needs to be 1 night. I don't care if it's 8-9 hours long on Saturday or Sunday. If you have to move it to Saturday because of how long it is, move it to Saturday. But the 2-night WrestleMania is absolutely ridiculous and uncalled for. Doesn't make it feel as special. But let's get into night 2, shall we? So just like night 1, they open up night 2 with the Tag Team Championship match. The Raw Tag Team Championships triple threat match. Randy Orton and Matt Riddle, known as RK Bro, versus Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins, the Street Profits, and Chad Gable and Otis, the Alpha Academy. This match went 12 minutes. Riddle and Orton came out first, which is surprising. The champion normally doesn't come out first, but they came out first. Got a huge pop. I didn't pop for him. I think Matt Riddle's character is absolutely a giant cornball. He blocked me on Twitter for saying that, so forget him. You know, I called him corny. He blocked me on Twitter. So it tells you what kind of person he is. He's soft. Let's just get to the point. He is soft. Matt Riddle is soft. His character's stupid. It's like he's playing his actual character. He's in the ring looking like a stoner. It is what it is. But RK Bro walks in. They are the champions. Street Profits. Their entrance is fantastic as well. Montez Ford actually married to Bianca Belair, so makes sense why their entrances were so good. The Street Profits, the red Solo Cups falling from the entranceway was great. I love the Solo Cup entrance thing. They definitely want the smoke. I'm here to I'm here for it. But first, let me back up. Night 2 doesn't even open up with this match. So let me back up a little bit, backtrack. Triple H opens up night 2. Giant reaction, giant pop from the crowd. Thank you, H. Thank you, thank you, Hunter, whatever. Thank you, Triple H chants. He drops his boots in the ring, and he basically says, thank you to the fans for everything. And he drops his boots in the middle of the ring, basically saying, I'm retired, I'm done. I'm going to stay backstage now. Very good moment. Unfortunately, they didn't even really show us that he dropped his boots in the middle of the ring. I didn't see it till I saw it on Twitter later. Great opening. I had floor seats for night 2, so I was very close to when Triple H came out. Triple H's entrance never gets old. Like I said, I have been hyping up some entrances in this because it's just so good. Triple H is the game entrance. I wish he would use different music for that, but Triple H entrance coming out with spit in the water and fantastic. I don't know how, I was actually living that, but I got to see it for the first time, and well, not for the first time, but I got to see it that close, and it's just so special. But anyways, back to the match now. Alpha Academy was booed by literally everybody. Nobody cares about them. Randy Orton, Matt Riddle retain. After the match, I don't know why, but the Street Profits and RKO are, pouring drinks and celebrating as if the Street Profits won the match. They lost, but they're celebrating with RK Bro. Chad Gable attacks him from behind. In comes the newly signed WWE superstar, a 2-time NCAA champion, Gable Stevenson. Gives Chad Gable, yeah, it's funny, Chad Gable, Gable Stevenson, gives Gable a suplex, walks out the ring, enjoys a drink with the Street Profits and RK Bro. You have to think that this man is the next guy to get pushed. They've been hyping this man up, and I can't really blame them. He's an Olympic gold medalist. He's a 2-time NCAA champion at the University of Minnesota. is if he can learn how to actually put that into sports entertainment and professional wrestling, he is going to be the next big thing, whether we like it or not. I didn't really care for this match. It is what it is. This next match, Bobby Lashley versus Omos. Now, I have a lot to say about this man, Omos, but I'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to be honest. I thought Bobby Lashley was still injured. He had like elbow surgery or something a while back. And I thought he was going to miss WrestleMania. Apparently he was back. I had no idea he was even facing Omos. Anyways, this match went 6 minutes. It went 4 minutes too long. It should have been a Lashley squash. Omos worked with AJ Styles for a year, and this man is still greener than grass. I'm pretty sure I can be a better professional wrestler than Omos. Omos is a little tiny step ahead of the Great Khali, who is one of the worst professional wrestlers in the history of wrestling. Omos is terrible. I'm glad Bobby Lashley got the win here, the correct winner. 6 minutes, 21 seconds, too long. It should have been a 2:20 Bobby Lashley squash. Omos had to get some offense in, though. I don't know what Vince McMahon sees in Omos besides the fact that he's like 7'2", 400 pounds. Other than that, there's nothing appealing about him. He's slow. He still can't wrestle. You know, I just don't understand how somebody who was paired with one of the greatest in-ring talents of all time in AJ Styles, and you are still green after a year. How does that happen? Did you learn nothing from AJ? Did AJ teach you literally nothing? You had to have picked up on one or two things. You can't be that clueless. He's slow. His style is boring. Maybe it's just because he's a big man, but I'm pretty sure Big Show was better than him, and Big Show was terrible. So, congrats to Bobby Lashley getting his WrestleMania moment. Omos needs... I don't like to see anybody lose their job, but Omos needs to be futured endeavored immediately. Immediately needs to be futured endeavored. He's got to go. Dude is awful. That's all I have to say about that match. This next match, a lot of people found it enjoyable. A lot of people found it comedic. I did not. Remember how I said Johnny Knoxville had a match? Well, yeah, that was next. Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn in an anything goes match. Johnny Knoxville being known for this type of stuff through all his time in Jackass. You had to figure at a few times some crazy stuff was going to happen, and it was. During the match, out came Party Boy, who's dancing in a freaking denim thong. Like, dude, the people are laughing, and I'm like, I don't find this funny. Like, this is not funny to me. This is stupid and a waste of time. The match went 14 minutes and 25 seconds. It should have went 4 minutes and 50 seconds. Nothing about this match was great. There was one bright spot in this match. And that was when the little, whatever his face is, the little dude came and he like power slammed Sami Zayn. It looked hilarious. It looked like Hornswoggle out there. But yeah, everybody thought this was a great match. Sami Zayn got put through a mousetrap table and all that, and it was a comedic match, but I didn't laugh. I didn't find it funny. I actually found it quite stupid. Usually comedic matches are meant to be funny. Everybody was having a good time, but me, I didn't find enjoyment in the match at all. Johnny Knoxville wins because the celebrities always win those kinds of matches, which you have to give it to the talent putting them over, but at the same time, was it really necessary? Johnny Knoxville wins, okay. The next match was the match I was looking most forward to. The WWE Women's Tag Team Championship Fatal 4-Way match. The match went 11 minutes, but it definitely felt a lot shorter than that. The entrances were definitely much longer. They were teasing that there was a car. We didn't know who the car was for. Now we know who the car was for. So during the commercial break, Fatal 4-Way, Queen Zelina and Carmella champions versus Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley versus Sasha Banks and Naomi versus Shayna Baszler and Natty. During the break, they were throwing glow sticks into the arena for Naomi as Feel the Glow's her gimmick thing. So I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Her entrance, her theme song's cool. Her theme song has always been cool. One of my favorites, along with Sasha's. Her entrance also cool. Bianca, I love her music. Yeah, so those are kind of my favorite. Those are some of my favorites. All three of them have fantastic music. So I'm like, all right, cool. We got the little glow sticks for Naomi, and we're shaking them around. I'm like, this is pretty cool. You know, I'm capturing it on my phone. Out comes the boss, Sasha Banks, doing only things that the boss can do. Pulls up in a Lambo and starts driving to the arena in a Lambo. That's what the car was for. What better way to arrive than to arrive in style? Nobody does it better than Sasha Banks when it comes to car entrances. Sorry, Eddie Guerrero, it's just true. Nobody does car entrances better than Sasha Banks. You can argue with me all you want on that in the comments or whatever on social media. You can argue that with me, but I'm going to just lay it out there right now. Nobody does car entrances better than Sasha Banks. Naomi jumps in the car and they're riding it down to the ring. It's fantastic. Sasha Banks just continues to impress each and every time out there. And then next was Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. I'm a big Sasha fan. I'm a big Liv Morgan fan. I definitely popped for the both of them. Probably louder than anybody else did. Just, probably more than anybody else, especially for Liv Morgan. Everybody knows she's my favorite. And I had floor seats, so I had a front row view of right there. And her entrance with Rhea Ripley was they were Batman and Catwoman. So she had a whip. She dressed up as Catwoman. It was great. And then out comes Shayna Baszler and Natty to little to no reaction because literally nobody cares about either of them. And then the champs came out to also little to no reaction because also nobody cares about them. Carmella, I used to be a fan of her, but this new gimmick of hers being the most beautiful woman in WWE, stupidest gimmick in the world, gotta go. Like I said, the match went 11 minutes. It felt like much shorter than that. It felt like it was 5 minutes. I wanted to see this match go another 10. But Sasha Banks and Naomi win. And Sasha Banks, finally, after 7 years, 7 WrestleManias later, they finally give her a win. She was 0-6 in WrestleManias to this point. So I'm very happy to see. I would have been okay with who, as long as Natty and Shayna Baszler did not win this match, I didn't care who won. But I'm so happy that Sasha Banks finally got her WrestleMania moment. She's been putting over talent for so long at every WrestleMania. Put over Bianca last year in a match she probably should have won. And just for years has been putting people over. But Banks finally gets the 1 in the win column. Fantastic. Best thing that came out of this. Obviously, I would have loved to see Liv and Rhea Ripley win the titles, but having Sasha and Naomi win clearly sets up for the typical Sasha Banks heel turn by turning on Naomi, because they always do it that way because they don't know anything else how to turn her heel. So why not just keep doing the same thing over and over again expecting different results? But I am very happy for Sasha to finally get that 1 in the win column. And she finally gets her feel-good moment at WrestleMania in front of 77,000 people. Everybody popped for Sasha Banks. Definitely still a star. Definitely still a fan favorite. Hopefully next year in LA, she revisits the Snoop Dogg entrance and she's battling for the women's title next year at WrestleMania. Hopefully. And that's that. And then the next match surprisingly went 25 minutes, which again, it didn't feel like it went that long. I expected a lot out of this match. I expected this match to be match of the weekend, and I was very let down. Edge versus AJ Styles. To many, a dream match. To me, I didn't understand it. There was really no build behind it. Edge comes out. I'm Edge. Who wants to challenge me at WrestleMania? Out comes AJ Styles. Basically how it builds. AJ was actually bleeding before the match even started because on his way to the ring, he miscalculated how wide the W was on the ramp and smacked his face on the entrance, and he ended up bleeding on his cheek right here. But his entrance is always cool. I love his theme song. Edge, his old theme song is great, but they changed it because they don't want people cheering him. But do they really expect people to boo Edge? Like, it's just not gonna happen. So Edge comes out. His entrance, fabulous entrance. He's sitting in this throne, he rises up, there's fire, and he just starts walking down. It looks aesthetically pleasing. His entrance just looked awesome. Lots of fireworks, this and that. The fire was great. Like I said, I expected this to be match of the weekend and was highly disappointed when it was not. It was a back and forth. It started off slow, but it picked up. It was technically sound, but it like the Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins match that we seen the night before. It started off slow and it started to pick up. But it was a good match for what it was. Edge ends up winning as AJ's going for a phenomenal forearm. He gets speared in midair thanks to a distraction by Damian Priest. There were rumors going around that Edge is going to be in a new bad guy faction, or heel faction as we call it in the wrestling world. We weren't sure who was going to be in it. Damian Priest looks like he is going to be in that faction with Edge. He pretty much distracted AJ. Edge spears AJ in midair for the 1-2-3. I don't know, man. I expected... Maybe it's because I expected too much out of this match, which is why it wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be. This match had every chance to absolutely tear the house down. And it did not. It failed in that aspect. Technically sound good match, but... And then due to work, I didn't really get to see the rest of this, but I was watching on Peacock on the way to my car. The New Day versus Sheamus and Ridge Holland was supposed to be night 1. The match got cut, so what do? They put it on night 2, and they make it 1 minute and 41 seconds. Sheamus and Ridge Holland beat the New Day in under 2 minutes. There's nothing to say. Kofi Kingston has been buried since he lost the WWE Championship. You had a chance to really build Kofi into a main event star finally after all these years. You squash him to Brock in like 30 seconds on the first SmackDown that it debuts on Fox. And then you have him lose to Sheamus and Ridge Holland in 1 minute and 41 seconds. Unbelievable how far he has fallen. Absolutely ridiculous. Now this is one match that I was really paying attention to as I was walking to my car leaving the arena. Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. Now Pat McAfee has had 2 wrestling matches prior. He wrestled in NXT War Games, and he had a different match with former NXT champion Adam Cole. Match was fantastic. Pat McAfee is awesome. Him versus Austin Theory went 9 minutes. Pat McAfee can go. If Pat McAfee, and he's an announcer full-time on SmackDown, man, every time he gets into the ring, it's electric. And speaking of entrances, Pat McAfee with entrance of the night. Seven Nation Army, the best song everybody had. The best song for an entrance music, period. He has the best entrance music currently in the WWE. Seven Nation Army, White Stripes, Seven Nation Army, just fantastic. He did some good things in there. And then, just as he defeats Austin Theory, who was handpicked by Vincent Kennedy McMahon, we thought that was it. Pat McAfee wins. Oh no, that's not it. Here comes Vince McMahon to the ring. Vince McMahon, 78 years old. 76, 78, however old Mr. McMahon is. Old man. Gets into the ring. Takes his suit off. Looks super buff for his age at 76. Comes in there. Him and Pat McAfee. Impromptu match. Here you go. Mr. McMahon defeats Pat McAfee. Kicked the football in his ribs. 1, 2, 3. Oh, you thought that was it, huh? No. That was not it. We all know the storyline. Steve Austin made Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon made Steve Austin. For the second night in a row, glass shatters. Woof. Out comes Stone Cold Steve Austin. Oh, they're sharing a beer with each other. Oh, are they over their feud? Boom. Austin comes out. Stuns Austin Theory, who sold it very well. He sold the stunner very well. And then him and Pat McAfee having a moment. Stuns Pat McAfee, who also sold the move very, very well. And then him and Vince are sharing a beer. Maybe they're over what they're over. He kicks Vince McMahon in the ribs, getting ready for the stunner. And Vince McMahon has one of the worst selling stunners we've ever seen. As he gets stunned, it was one of the worst selling stunners we have ever seen. It was worse than his old ones. Like, the man barely moved, but at 76, the fact that he even took that bump, I give him credit. But man, that was one of the ugliest spots I have ever seen in a wrestling match. Great time though, it's for the fans. And then, yeah, it is what it is. And then the main event of night 2, the most hyped up, overrated match in the history of WWE. Winner takes all, title versus title, for the 95,302nd time, Roman Reigns, the Universal Champion, versus Brock Lesnar. How many times we got to see this match, bro? How many times? This is the 3rd time at WrestleMania that we've seen this. We've seen this 2 years ago, and it didn't get over. What makes you think that adding another stipulation to it's going to get it over? Terrible. Everybody knows my thoughts on Roman Reigns. Everybody knows my thoughts on Brock Lesnar. I don't care for either one of them. We've seen this match literally 2 years ago. Why are we getting it again? It's the 3rd time at WrestleMania we get it, and people are comparing it to Rock and Austin. It doesn't compare nothing to Rock and Austin. Rock and Austin were way better all 3 times than these two have the last 10 times they faced. This is just 3 times at WrestleMania. They've wrestled plenty of times before this. Stop with this. Give us something else. Please, WWE. Give us something else. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. Winner takes all. Championship unification match. I'm over it. I was listening to this. I'm in my car at this point. I'm listening to this match because I'm trying to beat traffic because I didn't care about this match at all. So my goal was to leave before this match even happened. Awful. Just awful. It's the exact same match that they had the last 10 times. It went 12 minutes. Your main event went 12 minutes. You could have given them another 20 to at least try to do something, or given them another 10 or 15. At least have the match go, at least try and get it a half hour. You weren't on a time constraint. It was only like 10:30 at this point. What are you doing? You give your main event, your biggest match that you claim is the biggest stipulation, winner take all, title versus title match in the history of WrestleMania. You give it 12 minutes and 12 seconds. Now, is that because Roman was hurt? I don't know if he's legitimately injured or not, but you could have had them go another 15 minutes and it would have felt better than what you gave us. This match, the exact same as the other 10 times. Just a bunch of It was just a finisher spot over and over again. Superman punch, suplex, Superman punch, suplex. Oh, it's using the F5. Spear, spear, Superman punch, F5, suplex, suplex. The same thing that we seen all the time. Give us something different. At least add weapons or something to it. Yeah, Brock Lesnar got speared to the outside. Yippee-doo, woo-hoo. I am so over this Roman Reigns thing. I am so over Brock Lesnar. As I said earlier, you probably caught it, but if you didn't, Roman Reigns wins because Roman always wins. That's literally what Monday Night Raw stands for. Roman always wins. Ridiculous. I don't agree. I'm over this Roman thing. Everybody likes him as the tribal chief. He's doing the exact same thing he was doing as a babyface. He's just a bad guy now. He's doing the exact same thing, the same corny lines. Nothing about his character has changed. Except that he looks more natural being a heel than he does a babyface because nobody believes in him as a babyface. Crowd's already turned on him. Crowd turned on him as a babyface. Crowd's already turning on him as a heel. I don't know what more you want to tell you. He's been champion like 500 something days. He's literally buried everybody on the roster. They have nobody for him, which is why I said have Cody Rhodes win Money in the Bank. That way you can protect both guys and get the title off of Roman Reigns. Or, as I mentioned Braun Breaker earlier, have Braun Breaker come up, strap the jetpack on him, have him take the title off of Roman Reigns, and really make a name for himself on the roster. I'm over this Roman Reigns experience. This is the 6th main event that he's had. The 6th WrestleMania main event. Nobody asked him to main event 5 of them, let alone 6. We didn't want him for 2. You gave him for us for 6. 6 main events of WrestleMania. Stop making him the top guy. He'll never be John Cena, and he'll never be The Rock. He'll never be Stone Cold, and he'll never be Hogan. I don't like John Cena, and John Cena was a way better top guy than Roman Reigns. Enough is enough with Roman Reigns. The experiment is dead. You need to do something else. But that was my WrestleMania review. So, I hope you guys enjoyed that. A little rant there at the end. A little bit longer video than I've used to. And yeah. That's it. Thank you guys for hanging out. I will be back hopefully this week, but if not next week, with a very special guest. So stay tuned for that. An interview is actually coming back to the podcast. I've done those before, so just stay tuned for that. If you guys liked what you saw, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this with all your friends. Follow the social media pages. And that's all I really have. I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.